guys, Nick here. I want to talk to you guys about how to create a killer lead guitar rig with the HeadRush pedalboard. Now, I will say there's lots of ways to do it. Lots of different scenarios with different amps. It really depends on what you're going for. So I'm focusing this more on the hard rock metal player. Now, one of my favorite amps to use with the HeadRush, especially for lead guitar, because I think it's kind of a warm sound, is the Bogner model. And specifically the Bogner Red, although I do like the blue quite a bit too. With the red, it's a little bit more gain, and so that's really nice for using it with hard rock and metal stuff. So what you heard on the little jam I was doing there was this Bogner amp setup that I have. I've called it FW Bogner Red, which just stands for my band Firewolf, which tells you that this is something I use with my band live as well as studio stuff. It's one of my favorite lead tones. I've got a lot of different lead tones. I've got one with Soldano, got a Marshall, I've got one with 5150 I like quite a bit. And so by all means, you could probably take this idea and apply it in different ways. But specifically, we're just going to look at how I create this cool Bogner style lead guitar, Bogner Ecstasy. You know, guys like Steve Lukather been known to use the Bogners. So I always kind of get that mojo when I'm playing. I try to get a little Steve Lukather mojo, even in just thinking about using a Bogner. And I know this is modeled, not really playing through a Bogner. Okay, so basically I want to give you the basic tone without any delay or reverb, and then I'm going to show you a few things that I did to it. So starting just with the amp itself. So this is the Bogner Red. I'm just going to play a little lead guitar stuff here. So this let's just... Okay, and I've got the gain at 40 because I know I'm going to put an overdrive in front of it. So it's not super gainy or sustaining yet. The presence at 40, volume 45, treble 75. I want it to cut. I don't like overly bright stuff, but it still has to be, I'm always thinking about how this is going to sit in a mix. And a lot of times what I find I like in the bedroom doesn't translate to a mix because I roll off so much high end. So make sure to have some high end. The mid's only at 35, but again, with the overdrive, we're going to add some of that mid-range back in. But this is an area where if you're not cutting through, I would say start boosting some mids. Bass at 50, the bright's on, boost at 64. Okay, all these you can tweak. Now my guitar is that I'm using here is a Chub Tone guitar, which is a custom guitar builder out in Southern California. And this pickup here is a DiMarzio Tone Zone, which is fairly hot. Not super hot though. So and then I've got an Aaron Norton in the neck. And so if you have a guitar, super Strat like this, that's fairly hot, these settings should work. But if you have something with less gain, and you probably need to add some, and more gain, you might need to back up. It's all, you know, trial and error a little bit to get things to sit. I don't like too much gain to where it's the notes aren't clear and you're just kind of hearing some of that sizzle and fizz. I hate that. So I try to have a fairly clean signal, even though I do like gain. It's a balance. Okay, so also I forgot to talk about this EQ here, the graphic EQ after the IR, and that's just adding a little bit of low end back in. I do like a fat lead tone. Okay, and it's also adding a little bit of gain here. So I'm thinking of this as kind of like live. I would kick this on the graphic EQ on as a boost, also as a little bit of extra low end. And you could also maybe add some mids in there too, if you weren't cutting through. Okay, so that's all that is. The IR I'm using is a high gain IR. I'm going to, I kind of go back and forth between IRs. I think as long as you have something that's kind of vintage 30 style, you'll really, you'll get a very similar sound with this. But I'm going to include the rig at the end of this with one of my custom IRs from my buddy Greg over at Sonic DNA. Make sure you check him out. I'll link that below. He's got some great stuff over there. And that's it. So far I've just got the Bogner amp with the IR with a little EQ. Now what I'm going to do is add the again, here's my tone. Nothing wrong with that. But let's add in the overdrive. This is the Tube Screamer, the green overdrive. I've got the drive on 0, but the tone's at 50 and the level's at 60. So this is what's going to give me a little extra. Now we're talking. That's about the zone I like. Forgot to mention also, make sure and check out my free sweep picking guide. As I was doing a little sweeping there, free sweep picking guide called Sweep Picking Boot Camp. It's really going to help you out with arpeggios and sweep picking and all that kind of good stuff. All right, so now that's pretty good as far as my lead basic tone, okay? Super clear, can get harmonics. Okay, now a couple things is a little delay. Tape echo. See what that does? Okay, I like that tone a lot. So I just got the Bogner, I've got the IR, I've got a little EQ post, it's not doing much, it's a little low end, I've got the overdrive, and I got a little tape echo on there. I'm good to go. But if you want to add a little reverb, be my guest. I've got one on here. I don't use it much, and it's a pretty light reverb. It's only 18% in the mix. You know, you can kind of play around with the numbers here. See what that does. For a lead guitar solo type thing, I probably would just turn it off. Now, here's one thing which probably goes against conventional wisdom, is to add a compressor. This will even out the tone. It will remove some dynamics, but it increases the sustain. If you are a player that uses a lot of legato type of phrasing, sometimes this is really nice to kick on for the solos. And so this, now here's my tone again. I'm going to kick on this compressor. It does kind of take your higher volume notes and quiet them down a little bit. And so if you're looking for a really dynamic type of tone, this wouldn't be the thing to do. But if you're a rock and metal guy and you just want a tone that stays consistent and cuts through, or even as for part of what you're doing, I like this as a way to do that. Now, I didn't have this on when I did the solo at the beginning here, but it's a really cool sound. If you do a lot of legato stuff, like I said, I think it's great. So that's it in a nutshell. Again, I would say that the amp in question, make sure you have that set up so you like the basic tone of it. And then keep in mind, if it doesn't have enough gain, that you can add an overdrive without increasing the gain on the amp. If you want to try to get all your distortion from an amp, that's cool too. But for me, this seems to work the best. And the IR, those are the three critical things right there, I would say, is the amp, the IR, vintage 30s is the way I would go, speaker-wise. Overdrive in the front. Gain not high though, remember I've got it on 0 here. And a tape echo. We add that, so you got 4 components really to a good lead sound. Some other things you can put in there are a compressor. We've got the Dynacomp, a little reverb maybe. I always have a wah-wah on my lead stuff. I've got this up here, so I can't really use it right now. But always love a wah-wah. And for other types of effects, I love the octave effect. I think that's super cool. I like a phaser now and then as well, or a flanger. You know, those things are always negotiable. But for the basic core tone, this is the type of thing I would go for. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you grab the rig down below in the description. I'll link to it. And please leave comments. Let me know what you think about this tone. And if you have any questions, make sure and contact me. And also grab my free sweep picking guide, Sweep Picking Bootcamp. I think you're going to dig it. It's my free gift to you. And I will see you next time. Rock on.